Hi, welcome to the Recovery Daily podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Abbasi, and I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic and stroke survivor. And this is why, because I have been seeing and living the gifts of imperfections and mistakes and all of these things that eventually lead to opportunities that I would not have if I didn't experience some of that rough, negative stuff. So I want to talk today about the gifts of imperfection and mistakes, and however you want to categorize it or define it, the bad stuff that, depending on how we reframe our thoughts, can be seen as opportunities. And it may seem very, classic therapy statement, but it's really the only way that I've been able to find, I think, peace of mind and hope in the situation that I'm in right now in my recovery. My recovery. So why would mistakes be something to look forward to, especially in recovery? Not just mistakes, again, just negative stuff, stuff that doesn't feel good. Why and how can we reframe it to be something to look forward to? So we're going to learn a little bit today about loving our flaws and discovering how they might help us grow. So we'll start with this statement. This is what I was thinking of. I was like, this is ridiculous, but I'm going to say it out loud. I'm going to make a mistake today and I can't wait. And that sounds like BS, but it's a relief to know that, number one, accept the fact that I'm going to make a mistake, that I don't have to try to be perfect all the time. And thinking about perfection, first of all, I'm never going to reach it. I'm never going to reach perfection. The need to be the best can be exhausting. And this is something that I have lived with for years. I've always wanted to be the best. Whether it's not really for me either. I want to be the best so that other people think I'm the best, so that other people like me more than they did before, or more than the person standing next to me. And I'm willing to admit it. I was pretty ashamed of that several years ago at work. I have an example. But I've been able to, I think, come to terms with the fact that I'm not unique. I'm not a bad person. It's just stuff. It's just stuff that I feel. And I think it's okay to talk about because I'm sure there's other people like me. And if somebody thinks, wow, she's really a bitch, or she's so selfish, or, that's their problem, not my problem. I think that it's good to be able to say it. It's good to be able to talk about our ugly stuff. So today, I want to talk about that feeling of being like, it's like a pressure cooker. This desire to be the best, or the desire to be perfect, is like a pressure cooker that is filled with unrealistic expectations, and it's just never done. It never reaches the point where it releases. So I want to break down that nerve-wracking cycle and talk about how it's okay if things don't look perfect, or if they don't even look as good as the person next to me. What really matters is that I am authentic, and it does not matter if I'm flawless, because I'm never going to be flawless. My best is never going to be the same as the best of the person next to me. And their best isn't going to look like mine, depending on what we're doing. I may be better at one thing than the person next door, but they're going to be better than me at other things. So I have always had this desire to be better at everything than everybody. And it's just, it's ridiculous to say it, but that's what my self-talk is saying to myself. My self-talk is saying to myself, that's what my self-talk is saying. That, sorry, I have some kind of food in my teeth. I'm trying to think, what did I even eat? Oh, it's a mustard seed. That's what it is. It's a mustard seed. I made aloo gobi last night, so I had some for lunch. Okay, but I stray from the topic. So, what matters is that inwardly I feel rewarded when I do my best. It makes me think about when my husband used to say to my daughter when she'd finish a soccer game, did you have fun? And that's the way we simplify it for our kids. But I think as we become adults and we try to do our best at things, we abandon that idea of feeling rewarded inwardly. We feel like the only reward that we are deserving of is money, is a raise and a promotion and stuff. And I'm not going to lie, that's one of the reasons why I was so upset about leaving my job, because that is a fantastic reward for me. A monetary reward. I love monetary rewards. So now I've got to find a lot of my satisfaction inside. I'm not going to have somebody standing next to me saying, oh, good job, well done to me. I have, and my dogs, that's all I've got. So even today, I'm working on a quilt, and I sent a picture of, it's not sewn together, like some of the squares are sewn together, but the rows aren't sewn together yet. And I sent a picture to like 10 different people. Why? Because I'm proud of it. And I'm sure because I want people to say, yeah, that looks good. Well done. And I think that it's how much we rely on that, how much that feedback drives what we do that matters, or is a problem, something that we might want to work on. So I was thinking today about my mistakes in sobriety versus my mistakes while I was drinking, and reflecting on my past. Mistakes during my drinking days led to chaos, bad decisions, and regret. My mistakes were not necessarily something that I was going to quickly learn from. Later in life, as I got sober, I have learned from them. But in sobriety, my mistakes look a lot different. My mistakes are, when made with soundness of mind, they are opportunities for growth. And again, it sounds like something that my therapist would say, but it really does matter how we reframe our self-talk around mistakes and imperfections. It's the difference between feeling happy still, even though, despite making a mistake, and feeling defeated. So we'll just stick with the theme of sewing. Today I made a mistake, and one of the lines of squares, to the end two squares, were pointed in the wrong direction. So I have the skills and the knowledge to see what I did before it was if I had sewed that line into the entire quilt, then it would have taken a lot more effort for me to fix the problem. But because I'm aware, I'm self-aware, right? I mean, I'm comparing it to inward mistakes, emotional and mental, like, challenges. And I'm aware of when to check my quilt and see, is everything going as planned? And if I made some mistakes, correct myself before it's too late and things build on themselves, and then I'm in deeper, if you will. And so I didn't beat myself up. I can honestly say I did not feel bad. I didn't feel a tiny little inkling of you suck or anything like that. I simply took the squares off. I ripped the seams on those two squares, and I sewed them back. I flipped them and sewed them back together. And it didn't discourage me from finishing my quilt. It didn't really impact me much at all. I realized that I'm human and I'm just getting started sewing, honestly, in the whole scheme of things. So it's just not a big deal. I ripped it apart skillfully and sewed it back together. So that is a huge difference between compared to when I was sewing my pajama pants not too long ago. I made a pair of pajama pants, and I've talked about it a couple times. And I was trying to sew a buttonhole. It required me to sew a buttonhole. And I tried over and over and over again to sew this buttonhole. And a couple buttonholes were done right. I would say 20% of them I could sew, maybe not even that. 10% were sewn correctly as I was practicing, and the other 90% just would not go together, like would not work correctly with the machine. And so I called my mom and asked for help, and we tossed around some ideas about why it might not be working. Some ideas were, she asked me if I had the right foot on my sewing machine. We talked about the thickness of the material, what thread I was using, and that kind of thing. So what we did was, I didn't think I could figure it out myself, so I reached out for help. And I talk a lot about that in recovery. And even after I talked to my mom, I still kept messing up. I still kept messing up buttonholes. Eventually, I was cursing. And I put it aside, and I was like, I can't sew a buttonhole. I can't sew a buttonhole. And I just walked away because I realized that it was not worth that kind of aggravation to sew the buttonhole. But the positive thing is, even though I had a bit more of an emotional reaction to the whole buttonhole conundrum, I initially I was like, I'm never sewing clothes again. I was catastrophizing. I'm never sewing clothes again. And then I went downstairs, I talked to my husband, and we were laughing about the buttonhole. And I thought, I was able to laugh at myself. I realized maybe it's not so bad. Maybe I'll sew a piece of clothing again. Well, soon after that, I found a class online that is 10 minutes away from me where they teach you how to, starting from the very beginning, teach you how to read a pattern, how to read the envelope of the pattern. I took the class, and I'm taking it's called Garments 101, and I'm taking Garments 102 May 1st, and I am going to continue to take these classes because I don't have to be the best, but I don't have to give up either, and I can learn. The key is that I like it, and that's important. That's important for me today in the mental and emotional space that I'm living in, what I'm physically able to do. I like to get a mannequin out and design an outfit and particularly cut up old clothes and piece them together as a new outfit, like upcycling. I like it. Am I the best at it? No, but I'm okay with not being the best because I like it. The only thing I need it to do is not fall off of me once I sew it together and I wear it. So anyway, mistakes don't have to derail us completely. But it's hard, it's hard to find that middle ground where we can still enjoy something but not be the best at it. If you have a personality like me. And so when we give ourselves space to learn, we can strengthen our resolve to be better at it, to make progress at it. So think about one of your imperfections, and it might be something that you love, but you're not perfect at it. For example, Zumba. I love Zumba and I suck at it. I cannot dance. I have a difficult time. I have no rhythm, apparently. I used to when I was younger, but somehow I have aged out of rhythm. But think about one of your imperfections. It shouldn't be terribly difficult to find an imperfection. And think about, what's the first feeling you have when you think about that imperfection? Do you feel like acceptance? I'm okay that I suck at Zumba. I'll just stand in the back of the class. Do you feel humiliated like the first time I did Zumba, where I was like, I'm not going to do this ever again. It is completely embarrassing. Or are you able to laugh at yourself? And that's where I think I've gotten to laughing at myself. I haven't done it in a long time, but this is the activity that comes to mind when I think about not being very good at something, but still having fun. So are you embarrassed about the imperfection? Do you feel defeated when you complete this thing and you're not great at it? Or do you minimize the importance of not being able to do the thing so that you have no desire to do it anymore or improve, like I did with the buttonhole? I'm going to learn how to make a buttonhole, and I'm going to figure out why I was not able to make a buttonhole with that material that I had. I have a feeling it had to do with the material that I was using, that it was too thin. Side note, it certainly wasn't me. It has to be either the machine or the material, right? So maybe if you were perfect at that thing, if I was perfect at making a buttonhole, you would miss out on an opportunity for the future. If I was perfect at making that buttonhole, I might have thought that I'm too good for this Garments 101 class. Maybe. I may have thought, oh, I can do it. I mean, I sewed a pair of pajama pants. I had no problem, you know? So that's what I mean by when we mess up, when we aren't perfect at things, it may reveal itself later down the road as an opportunity for us. And I'm truly enjoying this class that I get to take. So here's another example. If I was not an alcoholic, I would not have the foundation for living that I have adapted through Alcoholics Anonymous that has helped me to thrive in stroke recovery. Yes, I've had ups and downs, but essentially I have a foundation for how to live joyfully, how to seek joy in the recovery that I'm in, and the chronic discomfort that I feel. I practice the steps. I've been practicing them long enough to be able to tell when I have red flags for you better go get help because you may pick up a drink, or you better go get help because you're sinking into a depression. I knew what to do when I was feeling a little icky. And my alcoholism saved me, I believe, from a lot of suffering over the past year. So, how do my flaws fulfill my role in my relationships? Each of us has our own unique role that we fill in our relationships, and our flaws are a part of that. As much as I want to think that my husband loves me because I'm so great, I'm so perfect at everything, you know, that's not why he loves me. He loves me because I'm not perfect. He loves me because I have flaws, and my flaws are just right for him. Flaws make us human to each other and help us to be able to relate with each other. They help us to connect with each other. And even though a flaw might feel icky to me, it is something that may draw another person closer to me. So I don't know if this is a good example of that, but I will give you an example, a little anecdote here. When I was in college, I remember walking, I think I was walking back from the dining hall, and I think it was like a Sunday morning or something. There was nobody else out. It was raining and icing. My Weimaraner is snoring. Sorry. She's talking in her sleep. If you can hear that, that's her. Okay. So I was walking back and I slipped. I slipped on some ice and I fell, like feet overhead, fell on my butt. And one sorority woman saw me. She was walking towards me. She was probably like 50 yards away from me. And when we approached each other, she asked me if I was okay. She didn't have any kind of like look on her face like, you suck, you fell down, or I'm better than you, you fell down, or anything like that. She just asked me if I was okay. That was it. And I said, yeah, I'm fine. And I think I said something like that was embarrassing or something. And I think she just kind of smiled, and we moved on. Like, that was it. I didn't know her. She's not somebody I had ever talked to before. And unfortunately, I never talked to her after that because I was so embarrassed by falling in front of her that I actually disliked her after that. Isn't that interesting? I did, and I'm willing to admit it. I disliked her because she saw me at a weak moment. It was a misdirected feel. I wasn't mean to her. It was a misdirected feeling. It was just a feeling, and it's a perfect example of projecting my issues onto somebody else. And I think that it's vital to recognize these relationships that we have with people. That event has stayed with me my entire life. It was like a hot second that I slipped on the ice, fell, she saw me. Like, it was a moment in time, but it was an example to me of it allowed me to see that when I'm feeling something or behaving a certain way, it is the result of something that's wrong with me, not the other person. And so when I got sober and I learned, I hear this all the time, like, if you have a problem with somebody, there's something wrong with you, not them. I'm paraphrasing, but that's what we learn in the sobriety program. And whenever I hear that, I think about that. I think about when I fell down on the ice and how me falling down on the ice made me exude negative feelings towards this other person. Exude? I mean, she didn't know it. So it's just an important example for me. And when it comes to other people, I think I often fall short in my inward, like, I don't know, how I feel about other people comparatively. So I'm always striving to be the best. I always want to be better than everybody else because I want people to like me more. I'm not doing it for the inner satisfaction always. Now, I'm not always doing it to benefit from other people's thoughts about me, but it is true that I'm not always trying to be the best because I want to be the best for me, that it's fulfilling for me. Sometimes I'd want to be the best because I want to be better than my neighbor. It's just, that's what I do. It's a character defect, maybe. So here's this dirty little secret of mine. And that is, when I was working, my recent job that I just left, I had, at one point, there were 6 other directors that, I think there were 6 was the most we had, I think. But we all worked for the same boss, and I wanted to be the best one. I wanted to be the best director. And I am willing to admit that because eventually there was a point where I was willing to talk to my boss about it. So my boss liked to, I don't know if he did it with everybody, but he certainly talked to me about what's going on the inside with Rachel. What's going on the inside? What are you thinking? And there was, I guess, some resentment that I was holding towards another director. Somebody who didn't deserve for me to have any resentments. And what it came down to is that I was jealous. I was jealous that that person was getting more attention. I was jealous that that person was being given opportunities that I had wanted to take. And I had communicated that I wanted those opportunities and they weren't given to me. They were given to this other person. Well, I was jealous of that. And that other person absolutely did a better job than I would have been able to do if I was given the same opportunity. But I still could have thrived if I was given the opportunity. So I was jealous of my peer who got more attention and was able to thrive in a way that I wish I had. And I didn't feel pride for the other person's success. Instead, I kept finding reasons to be angry and not like that person. It's a character defect of mine. It is an imperfection of mine. And it feels really nasty. It feels very shallow. But it also lives inside of me as an experience that has taught me a valuable lesson about this pursuit of being the best, of pursuit of perfection that has no end. I want to be able to give myself permission to not be the best, to sit on the sideline and watch somebody else do well, because I can learn from other people doing well, and I can learn when I don't do well. That's where growth is sometimes in just complete and utter failure, and other times in not being able to be the best. There's no growth in perfection. There's no room for growth in perfection. So in recovery lately, my husband has been talking to me about really trying new things and figuring out what I like and what I want to pursue in this medical retirement that I've entered. And the only way I'm going to find out what I like is to try and fail and hate it, try and fail and still have fun, try and succeed and hate it, because there's a little bit of that's possible, or try and succeed and love it. Hobbies don't have to be something that we are amazing at. They can be something that we just enjoy the way we do it. Kayaking is a great example. I love to go kayaking, and I am not great at it. I have to float a lot. I think over time my arms will get stronger. Side note, I have high hopes that I will be able to kayak a couple times this summer. That's my hope, because I am starting to feel a bit better, and I've been able to open my eyes in the car on my road out front, so going very slow, and my kayak is going that slow, so I'm thinking maybe I will be able to kayak this year, so I'm excited about that. But this is how we develop hobbies, our careers, our relationships. We have to grow in them, like we learn in them. We make mistakes. My relationship with my husband certainly had a lot of growth. That was waiting for us. And that was because I had to make mistakes. He had to make mistakes. And these are how we build our lives, through imperfections. So I want us to start looking forward to making mistakes. Every mistake is a step forward in our lives. It teaches us, it humbles us, and carves space for us to grow. And by welcoming them and getting excited about mistakes, that's what gives us grace. That's what allows us to fall down in front of other people and not be embarrassed, because everybody falls down. And embracing that can change how we see ourselves and how we interact with the world around us and other people. Loving ourselves means to accept our whole selves and love our whole selves, even the flaws, and be your own best friend. It took me a long time to figure out how to be my best friend. Some of you remember there was an episode several months ago where I had this epiphany where I talked about loving myself more than I ever had. I think I even had like a lump in my throat. I was just like super in love with myself. So love your quirks and your errors and your failures. It's what makes us human beings. And extend that same compassion to others when they have mistakes and failures. Sometimes we're more kind to other people when they fail than we are to ourselves. So we celebrate other people's growth opportunities. We need to celebrate our own and be able to see those learning moments. And when we do this, we can foster an environment where everybody just feels safe and feels okay about being authentic, about not being perfect, and not having to be the best at everything that they do. So thanks for listening to the Recovery Daily podcast. Keep stumbling beautifully along, and I will talk to you tomorrow.